Do you avoid parties, social gatherings, or even casual conversations? Do you feel exhausted after spending time with lots of people? Maybe you've noticed that the more you understand about the world, the less you want to participate in it the way everyone expects you to. This pattern isn't a coincidence. There's a deep reason why sharper minds tend to seek isolation. And no, it's not because they're antisocial or superior. It's something much more complex and human than that. Arthur Schopenhauer, one of history's most insightful philosophers, spent years studying exactly this question. His discoveries might finally explain why you feel different from others. The first thing Schopenhauer realized is that isolation works as a natural defense against superficial interactions. When you have a mind that questions, analyzes, and seeks real meaning, constant contact with people who live on the surface becomes exhausting. It's not arrogance, it's self-preservation. Think about the last time you tried to have a deep conversation about something that really mattered to you. How many times did the person change the subject to something trivial? How many times did you feel like you were talking to yourself, even while being accompanied? This repeated experience teaches your mind to protect itself. It learns that not every space is safe for your depth. The philosopher observed that most people live in a kind of emotional autopilot. They follow patterns, repeat cliches, react in predictable ways. For a mind that seeks authenticity, this environment becomes suffocating. It's like trying to breathe thin air. You need to get out of there to survive intellectually. But here's the most interesting point. Schopenhauer discovered that solitude isn't punishment for the intelligent. It's a privilege of the strong. While most people need constant approval from others to feel valid, those who develop a rich inner life find in solitude a space of total freedom. This doesn't mean intelligent people hate all company. It means they're selective. They prefer one meaningful conversation with one person over 10 empty interactions. They prefer silence that nourishes the mind over noise that fragments it. It's a matter of emotional economics. They invest their energy where there's real return. Solitude offers something that the social world rarely provides: the chance to think without interference. When you're alone, you don't need to explain your ideas halfway. You don't need to simplify your thoughts so others can understand. You don't need to mask your inner complexity. You can be totally yourself. And it's exactly in this space that another of Schopenhauer's discoveries emerges. The greater the intelligence, the greater the sensitivity to the pain of existence. A sharp mind can't ignore the world's contradictions. It sees hypocrisy, cruelty disguised as normalcy, the waste of human potential. This perception hurts. Imagine having skin thinner than normal. Every touch that would be gentle for others would be painful for you. Emotional intelligence works like this. You pick up nuances that others ignore, feel injustices that go unnoticed, perceive falsities that are accepted as truths. This constant bombardment of painful stimuli naturally leads to withdrawal. It's not that intelligent people are weak, quite the opposite. They develop a refined survival strategy. They learn to dose their exposure to the world to maintain their mental sanity. Like a photographer who adjusts the aperture to avoid burning the image, they regulate their social exposure. This heightened sensitivity also explains why the rhythms are different. Schopenhauer noticed that more intelligent people perceive the world in layers. Where others see a simple situation, they see multiple dimensions, future consequences, historical patterns. This deeper processing takes time. It's like the difference between reading newspaper headlines and studying each article carefully. Most people function in headline mode. They capture information quickly and move on. Deeper minds operate in study mode. They need to understand, connect, reflect. This naturally creates a different rhythm of life. When these people try to keep up with the standard social pace, they feel constantly overwhelmed or misunderstood. It's like trying to fit a complex piece into a simple puzzle. It doesn't work. Isolation allows them to function at their natural rhythm, without pressure to speed up or simplify their mental processes. And here we come to one of the most frustrating points for those who live this experience: the boredom of banal conversations. Schopenhauer was categorical in stating that intelligent people genuinely suffer in superficial interactions. It's not snobbery, it's unsatisfied intellectual hunger. Imagine being very thirsty and receiving only a few drops of water. Superficial conversations are those drops for a mind thirsty for meaning. Discussions about the weather, celebrities, workplace gossip, all of this can be occasionally relaxing. But when it's all that's available, a sense of existential waste arises. The intelligent person leaves these interactions feeling emptier than when they entered. It's like eating something that doesn't nourish. You chewed, swallowed, spent energy, but you're still hungry. This repeated experience teaches the brain to avoid these situations, the same way you'd avoid food that always makes you sick. But it's important to understand that this doesn't happen out of malice or superiority. It happens because each mind has its specific needs. Just as some bodies need more protein and others more carbohydrates, some minds need more depth and others more lightness. There's no right or wrong, there's compatibility. The problem arises when society tries to force everyone into the same social mold. Everyone is expected to like loud parties, casual conversations, frequent social events. For those who function differently, this pressure becomes constant stress. Isolation emerges as an instinct for mental self-preservation. Schopenhauer realized that this withdrawal is fundamentally an act of protection. Protection against wasting time on activities that add no value. Protection against vulgarity that contaminates thought. Protection against noise that prevents creativity from flourishing. It's like an artist who needs silence to create their work. They don't hate music. They need the absence of external sound to hear the internal music they want to express. Similarly, the intelligent person doesn't hate company. They need the absence of social noise to hear their own thoughts clearly. This need for mental space leads to another fundamental discovery: the value of withdrawal for deep thought. Genius, according to Schopenhauer, needs distance and silence to process the world in its essence. It's not luxury. It's a basic necessity for mental functioning. Think of the great thinkers in history. Einstein walked alone for hours. Nietzsche wrote in solitude in the mountains. Virginia Woolf needed a room of her own. They all intuitively understood that intellectual creation requires a specific environment, and that environment rarely includes crowds. Withdrawal allows the mind to make connections it couldn't make in the midst of social chaos. It's in silence that the most original ideas emerge, the most creative solutions, the deepest insights. The intelligent person doesn't isolate to escape the world. They isolate to understand it better. And this understanding inevitably leads to the next realization: solitude as the natural condition of genius. Schopenhauer observed that every great thinker and artist is, by nature, solitary. This isn't accidental. It's an inevitable consequence of the creative process. Genuine creation requires detachment from others' opinions. When you're constantly worried about what others will think, your creativity becomes limited by fear of judgment. Solitude offers total freedom to explore ideas without external censorship. It's in this space that originality is born. Furthermore, the person who creates something truly new is, by definition, ahead of their time. They see possibilities that others can't yet perceive. This temporal distance naturally translates into social distance. It's difficult to connect deeply with people who live in a different paradigm from yours. But the intelligent person's isolation also stems from a gradual disillusionment with human nature. A sharp mind can't ignore the contradictions, falsehoods, and vanities that permeate social interactions. It sees through the masks everyone wears and perceives the power games disguised as cordiality. This perception doesn't bring satisfaction. It brings sadness. It's painful to see people wasting their potential on futilities, lying to themselves about what really matters, competing for things that don't bring real happiness. The intelligent person withdraws not out of arrogance, but for emotional self-preservation. It's like discovering that a movie you loved as a child is actually poorly made. You can't watch it with the same innocence anymore. Similarly, once you see through social illusions, you can't participate in them naturally anymore. Withdrawal becomes inevitable. This more realistic perception of the human condition leads to what Schopenhauer called intelligent misanthropy. It's not gratuitous hatred of people. It's a logical consequence of a clearer view of reality. It's like a doctor who sees diseases where others see normalcy. It's not pessimism, it's diagnosis. The intelligent misanthrope doesn't wish harm on anyone. They've simply lost illusions about natural goodness and human rationality. They've seen selfishness masked as altruism, cruelty disguised as justice, ignorance defended as wisdom. This awareness hurts, and isolation offers relief from this pain. But here's a crucial point. This misanthropy isn't permanent or total. It's specific and contextual. The same person who withdraws from crowds can have deep and meaningful relationships with individuals who share their depth. It's the difference between rejecting mediocrity and rejecting humanity. Isolation also functions as resistance to conformity. In groups, there's natural pressure to adapt to collective norms. You unconsciously modify your behavior, your opinions, even your values to fit in. For someone who values authenticity, this pressure is claustrophobic. Being alone allows you to maintain your intellectual integrity. Your ideas can develop organically, without interference from others' expectations. You can question everything, including your own beliefs, without having to justify this process to anyone. It's a laboratory for free thought. Schopenhauer harshly criticized the idea that happiness depends on constant company. For him, this was a cultural illusion that trapped people in superficial relationships and empty activities. The developed mind, he said, is sufficient company for itself. This doesn't mean total self-sufficiency or denial of the human need for connection. It means recognizing that the quality of company matters more than quantity. 1 hour of deep conversation is worth more than 10 hours of superficial socializing. A moment of solitary insight can be more gratifying than an entire night of social entertainment. The intelligent person learns to value their own company because they discover that their mind is a rich and complex universe. There's always something to explore, question, create. Solitude stops being empty and becomes fertile. It's an internal garden that flourishes when it's not trampled by the constant traffic of visitors. There's also a deep relationship between intelligence and melancholy that Schopenhauer observed precisely. Deep lucidity naturally leads to a state of philosophical melancholy. When you see the world clearly, you perceive its impermanence, its injustices, its absurdities. This perception generates an existential sadness that few people understand. It's not clinical depression, it's intellectual melancholy. It's the sadness of someone who sees beyond the comforting illusions that sustain most people. It's like being the only sober person at a party of drunk people. You see things others don't see, and this naturally separates you from the group. This melancholy isn't necessarily negative. Often, it's what produces the most profound works, the most penetrating insights, the most touching art. It's the price of lucidity, but it's also its source of creative power. Withdrawal offers a safe space to process this melancholy without having to hide it or justify it. In isolation, the intelligent person finds a specific form of freedom from social expectations. They no longer need to smile when they don't feel like it, don't need to feign interest in subjects they consider irrelevant, don't need to wear masks that suffocate their real personality. They can simply be. This freedom is especially valuable for those who have always felt different. Society has subtle but powerful ways of punishing difference. A disapproving look here, a sarcastic comment there, gradual exclusion from social groups. These microaggressions accumulate and teach the person to hide their true nature. Away from the crowd, these pressures disappear. You can think strange thoughts, have unconventional ideas, value things others despise. You can develop your personality without fear of judgment. It's like taking off tight clothes after a full day of discomfort. The relief is immense. Schopenhauer also noticed that there's a fundamental difference between the pleasures that motivate different types of people. While most seek sensory pleasures, food, sex, entertainment, social status, the intelligent person finds genuine satisfaction in intellectual pleasures, ideas, books, reflection, creation. This difference in motivation naturally creates different life paths. When your main pleasures are internal and intellectual, you don't need the same amount of external stimulation that others need. An afternoon with a book can be more satisfying than a night of partying. An original idea can generate more pleasure than an expensive purchase. The problem arises when society only values and understands one type of pleasure. The person who prefers the library to the mall, the museum to the bar, the solitary walk to the social event, is seen as strange or antisocial. This misunderstanding forces many to pretend interests they don't have, or participate in activities that don't nourish them. Isolation allows escape from this constant performance. You can seek your genuine pleasures without having to explain or justify your choices. You can build a life aligned with your real nature, not with social expectations about how a life should be. But perhaps the most profound aspect of intelligent isolation is what Schopenhauer called the burden of expanded consciousness. Those who see more deeply, also carry more existential weight. It's like having sharper vision. You see beauties that others miss, but you also see horrors that others can ignore. This expanded consciousness means carrying the weight of the injustices you perceive, the wasted possibilities you glimpse, the painful truths you can't help but see. It's a real burden, and not every person has the emotional strength to carry it while still trying to maintain a normal social life. Isolation offers space to process this weight without having to hide it or minimize it. You can feel the existential sadness that comes with lucidity, can question the meaning of everything without having to arrive at comforting answers to reassure others. You can live with your questions without pressure to transform them into certainties. It's important to understand that this burden isn't chosen. It's a natural consequence of a mind that can't turn itself off. Just as some bodies are more sensitive to physical pain, some minds are more sensitive to existential pain. It's not weakness, it's different neurological configuration. And this different configuration naturally leads to different life choices. What might seem like pathological isolation to others, for the intelligent person is a conscious choice to live in harmony with their own depth. It's not escape, it's alignment. It's not cowardice, it's courage to live authentically, even when that way isn't understood by the majority. It's the decision to honor your real nature instead of forcing yourself into molds that don't fit. Schopenhauer recognized that this choice has a cost. Isolation can lead to genuine loneliness, lack of emotional support, the feeling of being disconnected from the world. But he argued that the cost of the alternative, living an inauthentic life to please others, is even greater. It's like choosing between a short but true life and a long but false one. For those who value authenticity above all, the choice is clear, even if painful. Isolation becomes not just inevitable, but necessary to maintain personal integrity. But the philosopher also saw hope in this situation. He believed that people who make this conscious choice of isolation are the same ones who eventually contribute most significantly to the world. Their ideas, creations, and insights, born in the silence of solitude, end up benefiting all humanity. It's an interesting paradox. To serve the world better, sometimes it's necessary to withdraw from it temporarily. To understand the human condition, sometimes you need to observe it from afar. To create something truly valuable for others, sometimes total solitude is necessary. The intelligent person's isolation, therefore, isn't disguised selfishness. It's a long-term investment in the common good. It's the time needed to process, create, understand. It's the distance needed to see the complete picture that can't be seen up close. And perhaps most importantly, it's proof that different types of people need different types of lives to flourish. There's no single formula for happiness or success. What works for the majority can be poison for the minority, and vice versa. Schopenhauer's great insight was recognizing that this difference isn't a defect to be corrected, but a characteristic to be honored. The diversity of human temperaments is wealth, not a problem. The world needs both the social and the solitary, both those who integrate and those who question. The intelligent person who chooses isolation isn't running from their social responsibility. They're fulfilling a different responsibility. They're preserving a type of consciousness that the world tends to suffocate, keeping alive a way of seeing that might one day illuminate paths that others can't perceive. Recognizing this brings peace both to those who live in isolation and to those who don't understand it, each fulfilling their role, each contributing in their own way, each honoring their specific nature. The world is big enough for all types of minds, including, and especially, those that need space to breathe. If you recognized yourself in this description, know that you're not alone in your chosen solitude. There's an invisible community of people who make the same choice, each in their own space, each honoring their own depth. You're connected not by physical proximity, but by the shared nature of your minds. And if you didn't recognize yourself, but know someone like this, maybe now you can better understand their choices. That person's isolation isn't a rejection of you personally. It's a need for a different type of life. It's like a plant that needs shade growing in a world that only values those that prefer full sun. The important thing is to recognize that both light and shade are necessary for a complete garden. Both socialization and solitude have their place in human experience. Both those who connect easily and those who consciously withdraw contribute to the richness of life. Wisdom lies in accepting this diversity, in honoring different needs, in creating space for different ways of being. The world doesn't need everyone to be the same. It needs everyone to be authentic. This knowledge about intelligent isolation can transform your perspective about yourself and others. It can bring understanding where there was judgment before, acceptance where there was resistance, peace where there was internal conflict. If this content touched something in you, if you recognized patterns in your own life or better understood someone close to you, consider subscribing to the channel for more explorations of human nature and practical philosophy. And if this video added value to your self-discovery journey, leave your like. It helps more people find these reflections that can change how they see themselves and the world.